This week we are going to be talking about seats and seat posts. I get lots of questions about which seat will work on which bike, how the seat post attaches, sizes, etc. So this week, that's what we're going to go through. Now there's an infinite number of saddles on the market of all different sizes, materials, but for a just rough rule of thumb, you'll have narrower saddles are going to be more comfortable on road bikes or bikes where you're leaning forward, where your weight's more forward. If you're sitting more upright, like on a cruiser bike, then a wider saddle would tend to be a little bit more comfortable because more of your weight is going to be sitting toward the back. Things to look for when you choose a saddle, it's very much a personal preference. Some people like harder saddles, some people like softer saddles, whether you're going to be riding for many, many miles, shorter distances, all those are factors to take in. Of the saddles we have here, this would be kind of like more of your standard cruiser type saddle. You're sitting very upright. This one has springs built into the back. Instead of a suspension seat post, you can have the suspension built into the saddle itself. This one's, very squishy. So again, really comfortable for kind of an upright ride, larger base. But if I was going to be riding on a road bike, where again, I'm much more forward, and something like one of these two saddles would be much more comfortable. Now, seat posts come in many different diameters, so if you are swapping out your seat post, you do need to make sure that you get one that's going to be compatible with your seat tube. If you look here, this one you can see is 25.4. This one, which is larger in diameter, is 30.9. And there are many, many, many different sizes. So you always want to make sure that you get the correct diameter to fit your receiver on your bike. And then they do have suspension seat posts as well as standard seat posts. So if you're looking to get a slightly more comfortable ride, this is kind of a higher end one by Cane Creek, which has interchangeable elastomers that you can punch out to adjust the compression. Comes with different dots on them for different amounts of compression. To a more basic one like this Sunlight one where it's a built-in spring. These are more going to be like 30, 40 bucks, whereas these can get into the hundreds of dollars. Now if the receiver on your bike can't take a normal seat post, or the seat post you want to use is a little bit too small, they do make shims. These are by Problem Solvers, and this is a metal insert that'll go in to take up the extra space between the receiver on your bike and the seat post. So that's one way to adapt a slightly smaller seat post. Like if you have one with the suspension or you can't find one that's the exact right size, you can sometimes buy a shim that'll allow that to fit to your bike. All seats and seat posts will be designed to both adjust the pitch up and down and also to slide back and forth on the rails. So the seats will have a rail like this, so this can slide forward and back on the clamp or on the seat post. So on this one, I'm going to loosen up the clamp. This is one where the clamp is attached to the seat and slides onto the post. So if I loosen this up, this can actually lift off the top of the post. Now with it loose, I can slide the seat forward and back, and I can also rotate it up and down to adjust the pitch. Generally having it level to the ground is where it's going to be most comfortable, but some people like to adjust it up and down a little bit. If you want to sit more upright, you can slide it farther forward. If you want to sit further back, you can get into adjusting, knee to pedal if you're getting into real specific seat adjustment, but just to know that you can adjust the seat that you have in all those directions. So this would be for one with an external clamp. And then generally for height, setting it to hip height will generally give you the most comfortable riding position, and that will allow you for full leg extension with a slight bend in the knee. If you're finding you're having lots of knee pain, typically that's because your seat's a little bit too low. If you find you're having to really stretch, it's because the seat's a little bit too high. So just keep that in mind as well. Now the other type of seat post is where the clamp is integrated into the seat post as opposed to being separate. So with this one, it's the same general idea. You would loosen the bolt here, and then once that's loose, it allows the seat to slide forward and backward. And then this has little teeth inside here, so you can adjust the pitch by rotating that back and forth. And with the teeth, as soon as you get it to the position you want and you tighten it down, that'll lock the seat into place. So looking at this bike here that has that style, so now that that's loosened, the seat will now slide forward and back. And again, if we wanted to adjust the pitch by kind of picking that up, so that the teeth disengage, you can then position it where you want it. And again, generally level is where you want it, up or down a degree or two, depending on personal preference. So different seat posts will have variations on the theme. This one actually has two bolts, front and rear, to loosen it up for adjusting. But the same general idea, once you loosen both up, then you can slide the seat forward and back by adjusting here, loosening the teeth. So with that loose, now the seat can slide forward and back. And you'll notice that some saddles too will have a maximum and a minimum for where the seat can sit, so you don't put it too far forward or too far back. And then once you get to the desired spot. So this is one of the most common types of seat clamps that you'll see when the seat clamp is separate from the seat post. And so if we were going to use this to anchor a seat onto the bike, remove the nut from one side, this will come apart. Here you can see the teeth here that'll grab it in place once you tighten it down. So if we were to put this on, this part would rest on the top of the seat post. You want to make sure that that goes to the top so you can slide the seat post on. Curl that around the bar. So then you feed the bolt through, put your clamp at the other side, and then you can get your other nut on. And then once you have that loosely positioned, then we could go over to our seat post. We set that down, and then you can rotate it forward and back, and again slide your saddle forward. And once you get it in the place you want with this one, you would just tighten down the nuts on either side to lock it in place. So ideal saddle height position is generally right about hip height. So if you bring it up to the height of your hip, this is a good rough rule of thumb. And then when you get on the bike, that should give you full leg extension when you're fully extended with a slight bend in your knee. In this case, it's probably just a hair high, so I'll probably drop it down. One other thing you'll notice on a seat post is most of them will have a minimum insert. So you just want to make sure that you're also below that line. That makes sure that there's enough seat post in there that you're not going to be putting undue stress on it. And now you can see that when I'm pedaling at full extension, I've got a slight bend in my knee, and that's going to give me maximum efficiency when I'm pedaling down the road. Now, one thing lots of cyclists want to generally be able to do, but is not really designed, is to be able to put their feet flat on the ground when they're in a resting position. When this is set up for me to have the efficient pedal stroke, I actually can't put my feet flat on the ground, and that's normal. So just know that when you're stopping, you can balance on the pedal, put your foot down, and then when you get going, be ready to go. They do design some bikes that sit back further where you could sit flat-footed, but know that if you do have your seat set so that you're flat-footed on the ground, that generally that will not be the optimal position for maximum efficiency, and that can put strain on your knees. So if you're spending a lot of time on your seat, sometimes you can get some pressure, get some numbness. So a lot of saddles now are including cutouts that helps alleviate pressure. Some also have a design where it's slightly notch there. It doesn't go all the way through like you get on these, but kind of the same idea where it helps eliminate the pressure. Other things you can do are, your basic bike shorts that have padding in it. If you're spending a lot of time, that'll help for comfort. You can also add, if you have a seat that's a little bit too hard or starting to wear, they do make padded seat covers that you can slide over your existing saddle. So that's another option you have. We also have kind of some rubber ones that, again, same idea where it can add some extra padding. The Brooks saddle is kind of the classic saddle that has been around for years and years and years. These are leather seats. They've got a little adjustable thing on the front, so as the leather wears and breaks in, you can keep that tightened up and adjusted. These are very, very comfortable seats, but you do have to break them in. So generally you'll use some leather treatment. Brooks makes something called Proofide, and generally you apply this to the underside, that way you don't get color bleed from the top. And then after you ride the saddle for a few weeks, this will break in, and like a baseball glove, it kind of conforms to you. So it's a little uncomfortable when you first start out, but becomes very, very comfortable as you get going. And then they do, like all seats, have different widths. This is a narrow one, so again, more for kind of like your road bike where you're leaning forward. Your kind of larger cruiser type saddles for sitting more upright. This one has built-in springs. Got the granddaddy with all the springs front and back. Brooks also makes one, a new one they've come out with is called a cambium saddle, which is a gum rubber. So this one you don't have to break in like the leather saddles, and these are pretty comfortable, and they also make these with a cutout as well. If you have a Brooks saddle that you haven't treated to some leather treatment in a while, we do sell these little leather saddle care kits that comes with a little can of the Proofide as well as the adjustment nose wrench, and this allows you to get into that bolt on the front of the nose, the saddle, to tighten or loosen it as you need to. So another neat little thing if you have a Brooks saddle you haven't given attention in a while. So having the right seat and adjustment on your bike can help a lot in comfort and being wanting to ride farther, use your bike more. Best way is just to come on in and try out some different saddles, and we can help make sure that you get everything adjusted the way you want it. If you have any questions, feel free to stop in the store or give us a call.